So the Sri Lankans proving that they're still very much kings of one-day cricket. Now the ECB had also scheduled them one test match at the Oval, a form of cricket which they're yet to master, allegedly.
There was a real end-of-term feel as the Sri Lankan tourists prepared to take on England in a one-off test at the Oval. In fact, Sri Lankan skipper Arjuna Ranatunga admitted that his squad were just as concerned with World Cup preparations as with the test in hand. For England, there were Ashes tour places at stake, with both Graham Hick and Ian Salisbury given final chances to prove themselves against less daunting opponents. Injuries deprived Alex Stewart of his two most senior batsmen in Mike Atherton and Nasser Hussain, so Steve James returned to open and the man in form, John Crawley, was given the number 6 spot. And for the first time this season, Ben Holyoake was given a chance to show what he could do on the international stage.
Arjuna, you've won the toss and decided to bowl. What influenced that?
We feel that the wicket has slightly moisture on the wicket, and especially the overcast conditions, and try and capitalize on that and grab some more wickets in the first session.
So you're not worried about the fact that you might have to bat last and the wicket might turn later?
Not really. Only thing is they are playing with one spinner, so we are not really concerned about it. But we have included 2 spinners on our side.
The first day was something of a stalemate. Graham Hick and Mark Ramprakash shared the only meaningful partnership of the day, and without ever looking truly dominant, Hick notched up his 5th Test century.
Got away very powerfully.
Classic. Beautiful stroke. That's 9 off the over in 2 hits.
Oh, lovely shot. It was a wideish half volley from Wickramasinghe. It still needed to be put away, and Graham Hick did that with some ease.
He's going for it, will make it very comfortably. Well played indeed, Graham Hick.
It was a solid, if unspectacular, performance from the tall right-hander, and England ended the day well placed at 228 for 4. Hick had begun the match under great pressure for his place, and his ticket to Australia was now assured, or so it seemed. But his early dismissal on his overnight score of 107 left the door ajar for Crawley to put in his own claim for an Ashes spot. And as others laboured alongside him, he did just that.
Delightful stroke. John Crawley has just got himself in the perfect position for that. Perfect replay. That's excellent football.
His was a controlled innings throughout, but his timing through the covers was a particular delight. But no one seemed able to stay with him.
What we've seen today.
Yes. Hold him.
Well, the bails are off, and yeah, it's clipped him on the way through. Murali has his 5th wicket of the innings.
Murali frustrated the lower order into submission, and at 356 for 9, it looked like Sri Lanka would keep England to less than 400. But as the Friday crowd were growing restless at the lack of progression by England, the last wicket pairing of Crawley and Fraser brought the game to life with a flurry of boundaries. Fraser provided the traditional long handle, whilst Crawley was the epitome of judgment, using his feet to find the gaps on both sides of the wicket. The crowd loved it.
The runs are coming very quickly. That's what happens.
And has played a hook shot. Brilliant stroke. This has been a fun hour, I can tell you. The spectators are absolutely delighted. Gone now to 412 for 9. What's a big hit? That is a biggie.
Oh, and that's a great shot. That's gone many a mile again. And that's his highest score in Test cricket.
Even Murali felt the brunt of Fraser's blade, but his change of angle finally ended the 89-run partnership on 445, and Crawley left the field unbeaten on 156, sharing the applause with the off-spinner who'd taken 7 England wickets. If England now had their tails up, the Sri Lankan openers quickly put them in their place with a ruthless display of batting. Sanath Jayasuriya had made a name for himself in the World Cup as a pinch hitter, but since then he demonstrated an ability to play just as effectively in tests. His 340 against India bore testimony to that. England were to see him at his punishing best.
That's 4. Well, he certainly doesn't hold back.
Despite losing Atapatu and Jayawardena cheaply, Jayasuriya refused to be subdued. His cutting was especially venomous, and each England bowler was treated with equal disdain. Certainly Salisbury on his home pitch was unable to provide Stewart with the stifling restraint that Murali had given Ranatunga. Even the brilliant Aravinda de Silva was forced to play second fiddle to the glory of Jayasuriya.
Well, he deliberately dropped it short, but it was just a fraction too short. It was the top spinner. That's too short. Beautiful stroke. He has done no more there than give it a risky little flick. And that's taken him to his 150. And that wasn't all that short, but Jayasuriya is very, very quick onto it. He's a fine backfoot player.
There's the 50 for Aravinda de Silva. He's found that gap on the offside. He's been somewhat becalmed since lunch.
There it is. 200 for Sanath Jayasuriya. Very appropriate that it comes on the offside where he scored most of his runs.
Having maintained a run rate in excess of 4 and over for almost 80 overs, Jayasuriya was snared down the leg side. He'd made 213 out of 328 and had thoroughly demoralised England's dream team. De Silva, having become the first Sri Lankan to pass 5,000 test runs, moved to an altogether more sedate century soon afterwards, and with Ranatunga added a further 118 to the close.
Great shot again. And that one helped Angus Fraser adore.
And there it is. Double century to Jayasuriya. A century to Aravinda de Silva. Completely unhurried and unflurried.
Sri Lanka had a first innings lead and 7 wickets were still standing. 367 runs had come in a day for the loss of just 2 wickets, and England retreated to the dressing room to lick their wounds. Overnight predictions had the tourists pushing well past 600, but it wasn't to be, as Gough quickly removed Ranatunga for 51, and then Tilakaratne, first ball, both LBW.
And that's another one that's very
Got him! So, Darren Gough is on a hat-trick.
Kalawitharana was well caught in the covers by Crawley, and with the score on 504, De Silva's marathon was finally ended by Hollyoak. He'd made 152.
He's gone. Finally, Ben Hollyoak has the wicket.
Although Fraser ran through Dharmasena and Vikramasinghe, the last wicket partnership of Pereira and Muralitharan took the match away from England once more.
Lofted a long way down the ground over mid-on and clears the ropes.
The pair added 59 runs before Salisbury intervened to claim his first and only Test wicket of the summer. Sri Lankan's total of 591 was the third score in the last 4 years that England had conceded over 500 at the Oval, and the match was shaping up very similarly to the Test against Pakistan on the same ground 2 years earlier. England's second innings soon became a battle of attrition. Ranatunga positioned an attacking field for Muralitharan from one end and rotated his support bowlers to defensive fields from the other. Butcher was willing to play his shots, but then perished as he came down the wicket, and from then on it was simply a question of survival. Hicks' second ball duck illustrated the folly of playing back to the sharp turn, and although James and Stewart held out till stumps, the Sri Lankan win was favourite on the last day. James' departure on the final morning for 150 ball 25 opened the door a little, but it was the careless run-out of Stewart that sealed England's fate.
This could be close, and it's a direct hit. And umpire Eddie Nichols has called for the third umpire replay.
Ramprakash and Crawley held out stoically for 19 overs, but then on the stroke of lunch, Murali got past Crawley's defence and the tail was exposed.
LBW, first ball after lunch.
One ball was enough for Hollyoake, and shortly afterwards, with England still trailing by 21, Cork and Salisbury were defeated by the extravagant turn. Gough kept Ramprakash company for more than 40 overs, adding 53 crucial runs for the 9th wicket and taking England ahead. But just when memories of Old Trafford were returning, Murali induced another edge, his 8th wicket of the innings, and that was that.
That's gone. That's inside edge onto the pad. Ramprakash goes.
Gough went one run later for 15 to give Muralitharan 9 for 65, match figures of 16 for 220, and the 36 needed were polished off with typical alarm. Jayasurya's 24 not out included 2 arrogant sixes of Fraser and Hollyoake, which took his match aggregate to 237. Yet he was comfortably outdone by his countryman for the Man of the Match award, Murali's figures being the best ever by a Sri Lankan in a Test match, the 5th best ever.
And there it is. The winning runs for Sri Lanka. And it is a splendid victory.
Well, that was a great Test match to watch, with some very fine performances from both sides. But in the end, it was the batting of Sanat Jayasuriya and Aravinda de Silva and the extraordinary bowling of Matara Muralitharan that settled the day. And I have to say that next time the Sri Lankans come back to these shores, they are surely due a 3-match series.